What's happening, Shredder Nation? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another amazing week. We are at episode number 22 with Shred Your Body, which I'll be honest has really turned into a passion project for me. My entire career, if you will, of fitness and health and nutrition has once I cracked the code and once I understood, I just drew to wanting to always help other people, but struggled a little bit with the ways that I was going to make that happen. And, now with the ER Shred, I mean, the lives that we've impacted, the people that we've touched, I mean, the stories that come in, it is just something that fills such a void in my heart that was missing. I felt like pieces were missing. And every single week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock, I have the amazing privilege of interviewing somebody part of our shredder community, somebody who, raised their hand. They said, yes, I'm so freaking worth it. 11 days, I can do 11 days. And they just say, you know what, I'm going for it. And not only have they crushed that, but they've adapted this as a lifestyle, which is really our bigger picture goal, is getting people to understanding that living like this is nothing abnormal. It's not a diet. It's not a crazy thing. It's just because you want to feel amazing every day. And my belief is that our health is our greatest wealth. And, tonight, what I want to do is I actually want to pass off my hosting position and I want to open myself up like a book, just like I ask everybody else to do. People have suggested and it's been thrown up. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect week as we transition, as we just started another amazing epic team shred that started on the 12th. And people are already really going crazy. I wanted to spill the beans, and I could not think of a better person to turn my host position over to than my guest last week, actually, Mr. Rod Brooks. So boom, there he is right there, right? Rod, I owe you big time because I really couldn't think of another person. I mean, we talked, I learned about you. Your credentials are amazing, your media experience, and all the stuff that you've done, the awards. People can go back and listen to yours. There's so many golden nuggets in there. I listened again. So thank you again for that. And thank you for taking this on for me. And now I'm going to shut up and I'm going to turn it over to you as the host with the mostest, Mr. Rod Brooks, for tonight, baby.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, thank you very, very much. I am just honored to have this privilege. I wish I had a list of all the questions people out there in Shredder Nation would want to ask you. I can only imagine, but we're going to get to some of those if we can. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know what, Rod? People can post in the comments, and if there's a good one, we can pop it up, and you can play with it if you want. But it's totally your call. Totally your call.
Good. All right. Well, I'm not in the studio. I'm in my house, so we'll just do it this way. So I want to first of all just start out by, on behalf of Shredder Nation, just thanking you, Jesse, for what you're giving this community. If anybody was paying attention on Sunday night, you were as amped up as I've ever seen you, and going strong and motivating all of us with reasons to succeed. No excuses, reasons to exceed. I love it. Just eat the damn meat. 11 days, baby. We can do this. And here you are right back again on Tuesday. And I just love you for that. Thank you very, very much.
So yeah, thank you, Rod. Thank you. I want to take that in, because one of the things I'm working on is accepting, just accepting goodness into my life. So thank you. Thank you. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
You know what? That's not my first question, but I'm going to go there first. Talk to me about where have you had a challenge accepting compliments, and why?
Wow. That's a deep question.
Now
you actually helped me with this, believe it or not, to dig deeper. Last week, you taught me something that you went through, where you went to, I forgot, it was a mastermind or a class you went to, and they asked you to dig a little deeper. And you brought up a lot of things for me. It actually made me kind of emotional after thinking about, because it's really for me in stages, Rod. So, I mean, if you want me to go all the way back to where it started in childhood. I mean, what are
Well,
you
I'd
looking
like you to
for?
go back to where you noticed it was a challenge for you to
Yeah.
receive a compliment and take it in.
Um, that would probably be sometime after high school.
Okay.
Because I feel like, growing up as a kid, I was the fat kid. I was the one made fun of, called the fat kid, felt like I had friends, but really never actually belonged. My life growing up necessarily wasn't compliments. Family life was cool. I remember as a young kid, dad at one point in time, I think when it was when I was born, dad went into business for himself. And when I finally understood everything, we had the cool house and he was running the dry cleaning store and doing all that kind of stuff. And then kind of life turned after that, after kind of like middle school when he sold that store. But life was a challenge for me. And I don't know. I feel like I always had this thing of wanting to help because there was something wrong with me.
Okay.
It's hard to describe, but it's like it helped me feel like I wanted to live, if I'm being very transparent. Like there's a lot of times that I thought like, why the fuck am I even living right now? You know what I mean? Like it sucks, um yeah.
Wow.
And then it's just been a challenge for me. Like I just wanted to give and give, and I feel like I did that when I think about it because I just felt like I wanted to be wanted. It's kind of like when I got into lifting. Like I think I did it for all the wrong reasons.
Got it. Interesting. Wow. And then now, I saw you. I saw you pause, breathe, accept that compliment. How does that make you feel?
Like I literally got like goosebumps on my arms.
That's cool.
Yeah, because it's something that's still hard. It's still hard. I have no problem walking to the grocery store and telling everybody hello and smiling and making sure that they feel acknowledged, because I know how bad it sucks not to feel acknowledged. And I try to go out of my way to do that. I still think for me, I feel like the whole first half of my life, in my opinion, was just me constantly screwing up and making mistake after mistake after mistake and self-sabotaging myself. And I've just made this pact for myself that the second half I'm going to take all of that and just do good with it all.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, congratulations. That's growth. That's a whole different kind of growth. And to many people, you're a rock star. You are an example of that guy who's made it to that healthy, vibrant life. And sometimes it's easy to overlook that we all have stuff, and we all have stuff, and some of that stuff we're carrying around and learning to let go. So commend you on that as well. So now,
Thank
what
you.
I had planned for a first question was just to ask you. I mean, I know people who have one
Thanks
name,
for getting in really deep to get started. I
Yeah.
appreciate getting the emotions going. Great.
I know people who have one name, there's Cher and there's Ringo and there's Bono and I know all those people. But I don't know a lot of people who go around waving three names and we got Jesse James. And I figured there must be a story there. Like,
Yeah.
and you know how I like to collect grandpa stories. Maybe there's a great, 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 great grandpa
Yeah,
outlaw.
it actually, that's a great question. I don't even know how that came. Like people just started saying it and I was like, all right, I'm gonna roll with it. You know what I mean? Like it was this thing. And I got a big tattoo on my back that's got two 6-shooter old style Western guns and it says Outlaw Jesse James. Bad kid mistake, kind of like the stupid tribal tattoo that I didn't go all the way around that I gotta get fixed. But actually it didn't go back to great, great, great. It was actually my grandfather, my dad's dad, that I think we talked a little. I don't know if we brought him up last week or not, but he was that side of my family is Jewish. Him and my grandma were in the Holocaust, towards the end, and he was the one that came up with James. I don't know if he thought it was a kick. I'll tell you, one of my biggest regrets that I still have right now in life is not talking to my grandpas more. And when you shared that with me, it was really a touching thing too. Like it's some of my deepest regrets that I have. Um, and I don't know. I can ask my dad more about that story and how it came, but that's just all I know about it.
Let's go. It has a nice ring to it. That's for sure. Um, so let's move forward a little bit, and then we're going to go backwards too. But um, current household, we've met the cat a few times. And we've seen these X-ray photos of an alien, but we don't know your family. I don't
Yeah,
think.
man.
Why
Yeah.
don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
Yeah. So, I mean, current family, it's obviously myself and my fiance Crystal. And she's now 13 weeks pregnant. We have Zoe, my cat. And I think it's worth a second to pause. Like, this cat's 17 years old, dude. She has literally traveled from coast to coast, up and down, all over the United States. I used to run direct sales marketing companies back in the day. And
Really?
my very first office that I ever ran was in Orlando, Florida. We would do like promotions, like actual sales, business to business, door to door, in front of stores, and we would have clients like Disney, Vivitar, whatever. We would sell like 3 big Disney books for like $10 when they were normally 15 a piece. And this cat came back as a donation one day to my office. So that's the cat Zoe. We'll leave it there. And then she's traveled all over the U.S. with me. And then I got my 2 dogs, Belle and Summit. Belle's a yellow lab, Summit's the pit bull mix. Our house is basically run by animals. I have my amazing daughter from my first marriage, Kaylee Ann, and she is 11 years old. She turned 11 in March. She is my absolute pride and joy and my everything. And it's this COVID stuff has been a struggle on me because she's in Massachusetts and I live here. Obviously I was there and life and situations and stuff. It brought me here and I would travel back and forth, every 2 to 3 weeks to go spend Wednesday, through Sunday with her. And then obviously it's been a struggle there. So that's Kaylee. I got my dad. My dad lives here. I convinced him to move from Florida after 15 years. And Pops and I run a wallpaper installation and custom window blind business in the Charlotte area, which is great. It's great and it drives me crazy at the same time every day because working with your dad is, there. I got my amazing sister, my best friend in life, still to this day, which I'm excited about. She's in Rhode Island. And I got my 2 nieces and my nephew from her and my brother-in-law, Tony. And I got my mom, my stepdad who lived back there in Rhode Island. And then they adopted 2 kids.
Wow.
And they're back there. So that's kind of that part of the family.
All right. That's good. And the alien?
The alien is still an alien.
Yeah, but we don't know yet, right? We don't know what we're going to have yet.
No.
Okay.
No. We're going to know real soon. There's going to be a thing about that, but it's got to wait.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Nice try, but can't answer that question.
But what's really important to know is you're happy.
I'm super happy, dude. Yeah. Being a dad it lit my world up. And to do it again and to have another little one it's just more fire in my belly, to just do more.
That is awesome. That's great. I love hearing about people's families. It's a great method of connection. Are all of them that are age appropriately shredding? Are they all shredders?
Listen, my family's the hardest. But yes, my dad is constantly always shredding and off shredding, but this has been the most consistent. My dad actually last year dropped 80 pounds,
Wow.
which is amazing because he's got 2 broken heels and crazy inflammation gone and all that kind of good stuff. My sister has crushed the shred and then kind of fell back a little and then came on, normal, just like everybody. It's a journey. You know what I mean? Like we always talk about, right? There's no perfection. And then my mom recently informed me that she secretly decided to do this. I was like, what do you mean you didn't come? She says I didn't buy it for her for Christmas. So like, what the hell, right? My loss. But apparently when I see her again, she's dropped 32 pounds and like moods changed and everything. So I can't wait to see her. So yeah, I mean, there's pieces.
That's good. That's good.
And Crystal just eats whatever the hell Crystal can eat at this point in time. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But hey, I'm just going with it. I'm here to support. That's all I do.
That's awesome. Okay, good. Now I do want to back the truck up again. So before we all just witnessed you and your success, and you said it wasn't even your most successful ultra marathon, the death race, all of that. We know that. But before there was Jesse, the ultra marathoner and the bodybuilder and the nutrition geek, I've heard you talk about that kid you mentioned, a very different young boy who may have been overweight, who was bullied. What's that boy's story?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I try to block so much of my life out. Um, it's just growing up, I always played sports. I was into hockey, I was into baseball, I was into football. I was a very active kid. But for some reason, I was overweight. I was bigger. I wasn't like grotesquely obese. You know what I mean? But I was definitely overweight and the kid that was just constantly being picked on. Like I feel like I was just kind of the easy target. You know what I mean? Make fun of the fat kid, make fun of the fat kid, make fun of the fat kid. Mom swears up and down that I eat healthy, but I think I feel a little differently about that. Um, and yeah, like that's literally all the way through to like junior year in high school. When I started to kind of slim out a little bit, and then after high school is when I kind of really found the gym, and that's when that journey started. Um, what else you want to know about that
Well, I want
kid?
to know, like,
I try to
when
forget that kid.
when okay, so I want to take you all the way back because you're back. You're a child. You're at home with your family. You go off to school for the first or second grade. Um, when did you notice that you weren't built the way all the other kids were, or when was there a difference that you seemed to that it set you apart in a way that you felt was negative?
Um, I mean, I guess around what's like fifth, sixth grade when I started to understand, maybe a little, maybe even fourth, third, just
Yeah.
starting. But I think then was there, like, I don't, Rod, I don't know the exact time. That's a great question. Um, that's a great question. I mean, I don't know the exact time. Like, it's
Well,
just a,
it's not even the exact time that matters. I'm fishing for when you noticed it, whatever that was.
yeah.
What did it change about how you felt about yourself or about being somebody's friend?
But I didn't feel like I really had true friends. Like,
Okay.
it never felt like I had like a friend. I had my sister, but at that point in time, my sister would still call me the fat kid too. She was the skinny beanpole. You know what I mean? Brother,
Yeah.
sister, love.
Yeah.
Love her to death, and she'd always, be there for me at the end of the day. But it was even that. So it was like, and mom was always like, "Oh, you're just big bones, like big bones, like." And I just remember, like, yeah,
Well, then, if you're taking that with you, like into junior high, or when you said you started to slim down a little bit, was there another unique moment where you said, I am good enough. I can be different. I can change. And I'm kind of looking for the bridge that gets us from the fat story to the ultra marathoner story, because there's got to be some nuggets in there, and I want to listen for those. I'd like you to think about those and find one or two for us.
the saddest part about this question is I don't even think I felt like that until a handful of years ago.
Okay. Well, that's
Like,
okay.
yeah, like all through adult life. So growing up, like I just, you take I'm not worthy, you're not good enough, you don't belong in this group. Even if you are in this group, you feel like you're just not supposed to be there, but you hang out there because you don't want to sit in the corner by yourself, type of deal. You know what I mean? You start almost making fun of yourself to get laughs. Um, and that comes with me in through junior high and even in through high school. So even though slimming out, like mind is gone, like still feel worthless. Wasn't necessarily like school at that time wasn't like my forte. Probably because I didn't even feel like being there at all. Sports was great. Hockey was my love. I mean, I did love that as a kid, coming up. That was like a really good thing for me. But even like members of the hockey team, it was, no matter how good the game was I played as a goalie, I was still the fat kid. Like, that's kind of all that keeps coming back into my brain that I can remember. And then it's getting out of high school, trying, like knowing that I wanted so bad to just I think I tried so hard to fit in, Rod, like I tried so hard to not be me. Like, how fucked up is it? Like, I tried so hard to not be me because I didn't think me was ever good enough.
Okay.
And that led me down a lot of bad paths. You know what I mean? Like, got mixed up in stuff. And I mean, there was a part of life that was drugs. There was ecstasy. I never like did like the heroin and the shut up, but I mean, the ecstasy's pretty big deal. I mean, there's a couple years of my life that I'm just like, whoa, like what is going on? And that, in that time, I mean, I was never like the punk kid, but I hung out with those crowds because that's the only part that made me actually feel like I was a piece of something.
Okay.
I was hanging out in really bad places that I shouldn't have been hanging out, again, dealing with drugs, like just not good situations. But yet it gave me this weird feeling of like uh a part of life. Like I belong in there. It's disgusting to even
Yeah,
say right now. Like,
and
you know what I mean? But
it's
it,
interesting, and I can understand why there's reason we all have them for not wanting to live in that past reality and to move away from it and even block it. But I also really believe that life is a journey, and that there's a reason why we're on our path, and that we benefit from the people who walked before us, but we have to walk our own path. We have to move down. We have to pick. Sometimes I was reading just this morning about, sometimes it's going to be a storm that's going to knock us down, and
yeah.
sometimes it's going to be something else that lifts us up. And I think of that as the bridge. I think I told you privately, I don't know if it was in our talk on the air last week, but I found a lot of examples in my own work about not being good enough. And when I was 63, realized what I'd been doing was living an I'll show you life.
Mm,
The theme of my life's movie, my journey, was I'll show you. And it was only when I figured that out that I realized I was living that I'll show you life, not for my benefit, but to show other people. So enough about me. What I did learn is that there's usually a bridge that gets you from where you didn't want to be to where you are or where you're going. And so you left us in this troubled time, maybe with some drug life, maybe with some not such great people. And that's the other side of the bridge. Walk us across the bridge. What occurred that got you from the place you now don't want to be to the place where you are?
yeah, great question. I think that started back when I answered an ad in the paper that said sports marketing reps needed. Crazy enough, but I went in for this interview and it was literally how I started my sales career. And this type of sales was, it was literally door to door. We were selling coupons. We would sell for $20, you get 3 free pizzas. And then for the rest of the year, you buy one, get one free for
Yeah.
Papa John's and Domino's and stuff like that, and oil change places. But what I learned from this was every morning we would go in this place and we would have a morning meeting, and the manager, the owner of that particular location, would obviously, hype up all the sales reps. And, I'd learn things about self-confidence. And Rod, you've been business to business and door to door. You either learn to build a really tough skin really quick,
Yep.
or you don't go anywhere in that type of arena,
Yep.
and we every morning there'd be sales meetings, and that right there, I think, started the notion of starting to think differently, have different things that were taught to me, watch successful people. And I was like, whoa, like, I want that. I want that in my life. Now, I ended up chasing money, which I don't recommend. It's very, very bad. And it's a dangerous, dangerous slope. And I was chasing the wrong things because I thought that's what people needed to see for me to like me, because I thought that if I just made it to the top, I almost kind of I'll show you, like, Yes, I'm a complete screw up. Yes, I've gotten in trouble. Yes, I got arrested for a stupid misdemeanor and some minor crap. And you know what I mean? I got lucky on a couple things, to be honest with you. Like I always say, I'm really lucky that I didn't get caught for most of the stuff because I'd be in some big trouble, you know? But that started to just kind of give me that little different of a thing. And also at that time was, throughout a little before that, I had found the gym. And the gym for me, regular lifting weights. I saw this magazine, this muscle magazine, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be that guy on the magazine. Not knowing anything I know today, but I was like, I just want to be that guy again because I thought if I looked like that, I'd be accepted. I'd be liked. I thought they were fine, and come to find out, most of them have serious, serious issues. People that go to these extremes. But that was kind of, if I can identify anything, I would probably say that's the starting point.
Yeah. Well, what I heard there was I heard examples that looked good, like the Bodybuilder magazine and all of that. But what I think is living in behind that might just be the idea of being accepted. And that's where that young Jesse wasn't and struggled, and then found that there's a path to get to acceptance. Um, I think that's really profound, actually, and that there's always something. I don't know how to dig it out. I'm not that guy that can get into somebody's brain and their psyche, but I do believe that there's always something that's back there that either holds us back or propels us forward. And it sounds like maybe that's a little bit of what it is for you.
And
So
you just said, I'll totally admit, I feel like in order for me to truly feel free, like fully free, I feel like I would have to spend a serious still amount of work in talking to somebody like that could assist me in letting it all out.
yeah,
Because I'm more comfortable speaking today. I've crushed that thing of a man, what a man should be. A man shouldn't have emotions, and boy, have I kept that for a long, long time, and that I still have trouble. Like I've taught myself so much that it's still hard for me to like show emotion. I'm like, I don't get it. Like I do feel emotion, do you know what I mean? But it's hard for
right.
me to like actually like, I don't know. It's still something that like that I'm holding. There's still stuff I'm holding on to that I don't even think I know I'm holding on to, if I'm being totally real with you. And I've worked so hard to block it out. Like one of the things that I'm really good at today, which is why ultra running's good for me, is I can literally zone out and just be in this like empty place of just pain, misery, sorrow, whatever, and just kind of, oh, it's not good actually. It's like
Yeah.
it's good and bad.
So you found the gym. Did you become a gym rat right away and hang out there all
Oh
the
yeah.
time? Your other home was at the gym.
Yeah, I mean, I did as much as I could. I didn't know anything. I learned. I went in. I read. I got confused. I read more. I got more confused. Like I just kept going, 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 going. And yeah. But I instantly fell in love with it. Like it was like it was what saved me. Like it was my safe place. It made me
Yeah.
feel good.
So did you think you could exercise your way into a healthy life?
In the beginning, 100%,
Yeah. And when did that change?
100%.
That's where I think we need to go now. I think the people out there want to know, well, you guys living in a gym, doing all he can. He wants to be the bodybuilder. He wants to be on Muscle Magazine. He wants to be accepted. And who knows what he's putting in his mouth. But he's exercising like crazy, and he's slimming down and buffing up. When did the first of the nutrition concepts come into your life in a meaningful way? And then I'll just tell you where I'm going with that. I want to know about, you said, the dozens and dozens that you've tried. And, some of us feel like, well, that's us. I've been there. I tried them all, but it sounds like you really tried them all.
I put so much stuff in my body that I don't even understand how I haven't had a heart attack during some of the workouts that I did. Because it still goes back to, I just thought that like I had to look a certain way. It was all about look.
Okay.
and now I realize the look's the byproduct of actual health, which is crazy. But so here's the thing, Rod. I worked out like crazy, and don't get me wrong, I built some muscle, and I got thicker, I got swole, as they say, right? But I was never even close to what I am today. I did not really understand and have like a click in the aha, like I talk about, in the fact that nutrition plays so much more of a role in what you're doing until actually my daughter Kaylee was born.
So
So
11
11
years.
years
Okay.
ago.
Yeah.
Now I've been doing it for a long time. I've been studying it and practicing it and trying different things. And again, I got results, but nothing close to what I was able to do over the last 11 years in fully transforming and living this way and keeping myself this way with ease. And then getting into, all of that. So my daughter Kaylee was born in 2000. And it was probably, we lived in Florida for about 2.5 years. We moved up back up to Massachusetts, Rhode Island area. And it was at that time, I was still going to the gym, but I started going to the gym and then really had this click, you know what I mean, about the food and what was going on. And that's kind of when it started to really just whoosh for me. Like it just really sunk in. And then I just started diving and diving and diving and diving and going from there.
So what that look like in that first ad? Was it like Whole Foods, or was it something that was processed and created, or what kind of stuff were you trying out that made this? Because I think you went through a lot of steps to get to ER Shred.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? The ER shred is born from all the mistakes and all the things. That's the best part about it. But so yeah, when I first started, I did what everybody else did. Like I read a magazine, and the magazine said that you should do this, and I did it. The magazine promoted this supplement because it was supposed to make your muscles bigger, and I did it. And I took the testosterone pills and the creatine pills and the fat burner pills and the BCAAs and the protein powders, but they were all like just standard basic things that I saw because that's all I knew. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know anything like I kind of know today. Like I was just doing what I thought was right and trying to get to that goal of looking this certain way. So and every diet that came along, I always loved science. Like if it wasn't for science and biology, I probably wouldn't have graduated high school. Like, thank God for that. You know what I mean? And gym class was pretty cool too, but I didn't like the locker room. But so that was that. And then throughout that time, I mean, you name it. Like I've done high protein diets, lower protein diets. I've tried the keto. I've tried, I joined different companies along the way, and I used those products. And I mean, you name it, like I did carb cycling, carb loading, deprivation, almost starvation. Like, I mean, just anything and everything to try to get to what I thought that I wanted to be. I did. And there was nothing I wouldn't do to make it happen. I'm going to be totally transparent with you in something. People, one of the best compliments I've ever gotten as I finally figured this out was like, "Oh, this dude takes steroids." I'm like, "Well, thank you very much, but no, I don't. Let's do some tests." Way back in the day, I did one small cycle and realized very, very quickly that shit was just not for me. So it never kept going from there, but I did try it because I did do the research and there's a lot of stuff and we won't dive down that rabbit hole, but I did try that once, being very blunt and transparent. But a lot of it was just trial and tribulation. And a lot of it sucked, Rod. I mean, a lot of it really sucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't know where I got the discipline from, but no matter what happened in life, no matter what I was getting in trouble for, no matter what life was happening, like working out was a non-negotiable. Like trying to figure out this code was non-negotiable. That always stood. I never let things get in the way of that. Like that was to me like how I released everything. I thought of nothing else but why I was there, just doing that. And it made me feel better for that hour. But you name it, I've tried it.
So it's not like Shred has been around for 15 years or anything. It's been
Oh,
around since October. Maybe you guys talked about it before October, but up until it was something, you were doing something else.
yeah,
And I know that you were in shape when you were
yeah,
doing those other things. And so it takes a pretty compelling story to move someone from where success is at and where you were feeling one of the best ways that you had felt, and you were
yeah,
competing and you were buff, and
yeah,
saying, oh, I think I'm going to try this whole new thing. I'm going to try this. So I think the people who are listening and would like to know if all those other things worked until they didn't, or they got you to where you were, what was the prompt that said, no, this is the way? I think it's
yeah.
time to hear why set aside what you have worked toward and were accomplishing to do this, and then share it with everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take it in steps. So my athleticism, whatever, right? I mean, really, I'm just an average everyday athlete. It's just a big part of my life. You know what I mean? For me personally. So it went from bodybuilding, which is where everything started for me, which is why weights and the gym will always have a place in my heart. Like it's what I fell in love with, in the first place. And, throughout that time, it was, really just studying nutrition, reading articles myself, especially in as things started to change, like after Keely was born, really just from learning and being able to take everything that I was like, well, this is kind of crazy, and comparing research and kind of looking at different things, and I got smarter, you know what I mean? Like as I kept going, and if you just keep going after you fail, I feel like you can only keep getting better. Do you know what I mean? Like you're only going to get better at what you failed at if you just don't make the same damn mistake again. So I would just always take those pieces with me, and each time that I would go, I would learn something new. Whether it was like, okay, like, you got to do more carbs or less carbs, or these macros have to be balanced, or whatever the case may be. And I would always kind of zone in on those. And I found, different programs, and I would always try different things. I was never set in one particular way. And what I've come to learn over time is actually, when it comes to like working out, per se, not necessarily nutrition, but working out, that's actually one of the best ways to be functionally fit, is you're doing different things and different types of programs and stuff like that, especially even with lifting, right? Like you can change that up like 4 different ways in 12-week blocks, and really kind of have strategy behind that. So there's a lot of planning and strategy, and, but I was eating, the carbs, and I was eating, you made a point. Like I wish I had pictures to show, because it's, I look the same now as I did then. The difference is my skin looks way healthier, but I'm 10 years older, and my eyes have more color, but I'm 10 years older because I understand nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And it's not just about, you got to get your protein, bro. You got to get your protein, bro. Like that's all it was. Like I listened to a lot of bro science back then, is what I call it. Right. You get the guys in the gym that think they fucking know everything. And it's like, that's just bro science, right? Like, what are we getting that from? Or Johnny the Trainer, as Kathy Savage likes to call him, right? Johnny the Trainer. But yeah, so it was macronutrient counting. It was that, and then 6 years ago is when I personally got introduced to the nutrition that we utilize today, the supplementation that we utilize today. But up until that time, it was taking all kinds of supplements. I mean, gosh, I used to sell supplements out of the back of my trunk, literally out of the back of my trunk. And I was the guy in the gym because I got myself so buff and so ripped. I mean, I'm 5'8", Rod. The most natural I ever got to was 191 pounds. And I mean, like veins like through my stomach, through everything. Like I had doctors that were like, dude, I see veins in you that I don't even see when I cut people open. Like that's how psycho I was with it, but I never felt like it was like a bad thing for me. Like people like, I just can't, what for me, it was like, I have to. And I think it was still for the wrong reason. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it's really like, I kept pushing because I still felt like I was never freaking good enough. I still felt like I was never good enough. Even when everybody would be like, oh, like, I'd be like, eh, Does that make
But
sense? So I
yeah,
did
it
that,
does. It
right?
does. So okay, so we're up to that point, and you and Sean and Crystal and the gang that are sitting down talking about these concepts and how to make modifications and to put your experience into the plan. It opened up, and you started using it, and you started talking about it. What changed in you?
Yeah, so that's a great question, but I want to just touch on one more thing that I think is an important piece of this puzzle.
Okay.
And that's where, so I got to this point, right? Like super buff, super ripped, like got in there, like thought I had it all figured out. Literally like male ego got in the way, thought I had it figured out. Nothing else could could get in there. And then it was 6 years ago, and I got to the point where I was like, when I studied enough and went to school and learned the back end, and I had a friend that worked in the industry and taught me the ingredients and how they were spun and what really happened in the labs, and started to learn everything. I was like, shit. Like, not only was I mad because I wasted thousands and thousands of dollars because of the information that I learned, but I was mad because it took me back to like I felt like I lied. Like I was just now I didn't do it on purpose. I did it because that's what I knew. But I felt like all these people I was trying to help, I lied to, knowing what I knew today, and it like hit me again. You see, I have this bad thing of self-sabotaging myself in a lot of things. Like people think I made it because I'm healthy and fit. I'm the most fucked up person in the brain that you will ever meet in your entire life. Like, do not let me fool you and think that I have it all together. Like, not even close. Not even close, right? But so it was just what I do, Rod, is when I learn something, the one thing that I'm grateful that I have is an open mind. And especially when it comes to science, and especially when it comes to trying things with nutrition. And I still think there's a piece of that I feel like I just need to constantly keep getting better, right? So then I started using the supplements that we have access to today that we use in the ER shred. They had the informed choice certification. I learned about the manufacturing, the processing, the testing of the raw materials for the heavy metals and the pesticides and the herbicides. And that was all the stuff that I learned was in the other stuff. And I was like, home run. Actually, a friend that I used to work with, my friend Tammy, who's going to be my guest in a couple of weeks, she introduced me, and she had to trick me and bring her daughter in, who was a scientist, because at that time I was like real science brain nerd, and she had to come in and speak that lingo to help me understand, like, because I was kind of turned off by it, because I remember I tried a couple other things in the past. So I got that, and then life was good, right? Like kept running, and I went from bodybuilding to obstacle course racing, which is like Spartan races.
Okay.
Like the Tough Mudders and the Spartan races. And I did everything from, the basic 5Ks up to what's called the Beast, the 26.1 or 26.2s in the mountains with the 30 obstacles. Then I learned about this thing called the Spartan Death Race, and I wanted to do the Spartan Death Race, which ones were 3 days long straight. Did that 2 years, failed 1 year, succeeded the next year. And then I met Crystal. I was married for 8 years. I was married back in that time. Went through a divorce through this process. And then I had met Crystal, funny enough, in a gym. Go figure, right? And then one day, it was me and another buddy and her, and we were all working out. And she was like, "I need somebody to run a 50 miler with me." And I was like, "Hell, I'm in." Like that's how it came about. That's how ultramarathoning literally came into my life. It
Wow.
was literally just like that. And I did that first one, and kind of, I don't know why I fell in love with it, but it's like the sick punishment that I just give myself. Again, to make sure that I'm worthy and good enough, I think is really what it comes down to. But the food part of it, Rod, I just always kept trying to tweak it. I always kept trying to tweak it, always kept trying to tweak it. And when I found out something wasn't right, I put the right thing in, and I kept playing with things. I always played around with things to see, but I struggled because I did everything by the book. I was super dedicated, super disciplined, but yet I still had some issues. Like there was joints that hurted me, like my knee. I was like, okay, knee pain's not knee pain, it's hip pain, it's core pain. Why is my hip popping? Like I'm eating my macros are right, and all this stuff is right, and I'm taking these amazing nutrition supplements, but like I'm still addicted to coffee, and I still had these other things going on. And then Sean and I had been friends that entire time. So I think that's an important piece of this is I met Sean when I came in 6 years ago, and we've kind of become really good friends and now best friends over that time. And Sean just from day one just always believed in me. Like he's like one of the only guys that I can remember that like besides like your mom, right? Like he's the only guy that I can remember that was like, dude, like you got something special. And he's never given up on that. And I've messed it up. He had all the reason in the world to do it. And he's just never given up. So we've created that special bond. But Sean dug in and realized that I had this passion for this and would always ask for help. And hey, Jess, I got this going on and I got that going on. And how much of this should I take? And what do you think I should do with this? And we've always tried. And I never knew, there's Sean. Thank you, buddy. From the bottom of my heart. Like I've told you this so many times, but I'll never stop telling you. Damn, that just got me for a second. I didn't expect him to be on because he's got family in town.
Just breathe that in.
Yeah. So anyways, he comes and, I knew his and Crystal's story, like the whole journey. I mean, I watched him spend thousands of dollars. I know the struggle, like it was secretive. He's like, every time he called me, he's like, dude, you can't tell anybody. I was like, I've never told anybody. Stop telling me that. He's like, I know, but I got to tell you. And then, he would tell me these health things. And then, finally he calls me and he's like, dude, I think we tried all this and we might have this thing, but I got to figure out how to make it work in using, these shakes and what we're doing. And let's lay it out. And he tells me this crazy thing, tells me the ER strategy. And in my mind, I was like, I just listened because I always just listen. And I was like,
excuse me, did he tell it as we now know it, or did he tell it almost like we know it?
Almost like we know it. Okay. Almost like we know it. Like it was pretty there. You know what I mean? Like, but the concepts that we have now, we've tweaked it to get it to where it's at today. So why people are crushing it, right? We've tweaked it. And we've just all we've done is just added to their greatness. Like they suffered, they went through it. It was really I felt like I wasn't really suffering at the time, Rod, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't suffering. Like I was ripped. I was shredded. I was still running ultras. Like understand, I was running 3-4 ultra marathons, like pounding carbs, like eating that way. Like I had it, what I thought figured out. I really did. Like I was fine.
That's exactly why I was asking, because healthy people, fit people, athletes don't usually change.
They don't change. We're very stubborn. We're very like the worst person I hate talking to is an athlete because I'm like, damn, you're going to be so stubborn like I was. Like, you know what I mean? But, unless they have that open mind. So he tells me this and I'm like, okay. So I take it in, I breathe and I'm like, Sean, this is kind of crazy. And he goes, I know, but like, I can't tell you. Like, he's like, Jesse, I'm ripped. I've never been ripped. I'm not like having these issues. Like Crystal's skin is cleared up. And like, I was like, holy shit. Like, you understand, like she's done YouTube videos of like vampire like stuff and blood stuff. And I'm like she has tried everything. And to switch the power again brought me back to when I first was actually able to transform my body into getting ripped and understanding the power of food. When I learned that, and again, you can do it a different way, but I'm going to close this out and tell you why I'm never going to leave this way ever. And why I think everybody and every athlete and every human being should freaking be doing this without a doubt. No question in my mind whatsoever. So there's ways to do it. And that's the scary part, is that you can get your body to look a certain way. But is that actually ultimate health? Are you going for the look, or are you going because you want to feel epically awesome every day? That's the question that really it's going to boil down to, and looking at the hard facts of how do we choose to live? What are we going to choose to do? So Sean tells me this. I say, listen, man, I just need a day to process it. I need a day to process it. And I took notes when he called. I'm always like jotting down stuff, right, in my little pad. I always have it next to me on my desk, and I'm writing stuff down. And I took it all down, and then I literally broke out my 2001 page clinical nutrition book. I broke out all my notebooks from IIN. I was like, I know that we had this whole thing on elimination. We had this whole. I know I tried the elimination back, a few times when I went through all my different stuff. I just never stuck with anything because I thought the next thing was better. And so that made sense. And stripping it down. the meat aspect, like, oh my God, I eat lots of meat. I never believed all this bullshit that you couldn't eat meat, for crying out loud. Like, I just never did. Just like I never believed that I couldn't take in 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight as a super, like, hardcore go 6 day a week, sometimes double session athlete. Like, I knew that I needed that. I felt it, right? So I never believed that. So it wasn't crazy to me because of the story that I share about IAN, because I learned 100 different dietary theories and they were supposedly all right. And with what this was, it wasn't just like a one thing. He explained to me elimination. He explained to me about, utilizing the cleanse. He explained to me about this incubation process that we learned. And I had already heard about that a few years ago, but actually never adapted it into my own life. And why I never done that back then, I kick myself now to know what I know today, right? So he explains all this, and I'm like, dude, this is genius. Like, this is genius. Sean just says I was the only person of his 5 mentors who gave the ER shred a shot, because I didn't think it was crazy. Because you know why, Rod? I had tried so many crazy things, so quote unquote, that I was like, dude, this just. So when I learned it and I put it together, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then this makes sense, and this makes sense, and this makes sense. And then I just dove in. I mean, for the first few months, bro, like, I'm just like, I have to see science. I have to look. I looked up carnivore. I looked up keto. I looked up the benefits. I looked up the negatives, the positives, like what it can do, what it can't do. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I don't even think we meant to do it. I'll be totally honest with you. And we've tweaked it. And once we realized it, but we came up with this fusion, this thing of, like, it's not one thing. Like, a friend reached out to me today and she was like, hey dude, are you really just doing keto but you're calling it something else? Without even question, I was like, hell no. Like, you don't understand the difference. You've got to be educated. And I asked, are you open to be educated? Because if you're not open to be educated, you'll never grasp this, right?
Right.
And if you don't do it for yourself, you'll never let it smack you across the face and realize how epically awesome it is. So we do this, right? And Sean does it. And at the time, Rod, I was training for a 50K. I was literally training for a 50K. Now, any good person training for something big, you do not switch in the middle of a training regimen. And I was only like a couple weeks away from the race. So there was like, I can't do it, but I believe in this. I know it can work because I've done different aspects of it. So it wasn't false in that way. So I felt good about it. And I made a pact with Sean that this wasn't going to be like we're in and out. Like, this is like, we don't have time for that. He's got 4 kids. He's 40. I'm 41. Have another baby. Like, hell no. We don't have time to play games. Like, we are in and we are going hard and we are going fast and we don't care who follows, but we're going. And we took a big risk because, Sean's got this position, with where he's at in life. And, I had this thing where I really want to live life with respect and integrity and being upfront and honest, because I don't feel like I did that, and I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm just being honest. Like, I don't feel like I feel like this half of life is my time. It's my time. You know what I mean? To put it all together. So we do this and we launch it, and people just start having like ridiculous results. Like, I mean, I don't think we expected it. Sean, I don't think you did. You can put it in here, but we did not expect the people of all walks of life, young, old. I mean, it doesn't matter. We had to convince a couple people. Bob just popped in. He was one that we had to kind of pry a little bit, but like, once he got it, he was like, swords up, let's go. And he's just been like shredded for life. Like, it's like once it sinks in, you're like, okay, game on. You know what I mean? And it's just this amazing thing that like empowers people. And I don't think we realized that powerful concept of it either. Maybe in the beginning we realized it's not really like, it's not a diet. Like, I made Sean promise, like, this isn't a diet. It's not a fad. It's not just 11 days. Like, we need to have something for lifestyle. We need to have that longevity. And that's where the community aspect comes into play, and where, why we work so hard at that part of it, because it's so important for people to have something to keep going with. So after my race, Rod, right, I was ready. I was so ready to go, but I just couldn't logically in my brain do it before this 50K, right? So the second the race is done, in my mind, like, this is the way that I go. The The switch just flipped. I literally just flip a switch. That's how I operate. I flip a switch, and then it's just like I can shift tracks. Like most, I operate like a freaking like a Ferrari. Like I can just turn. I can turn, right? What if I see something? I don't need to be a ship. That ship takes too freaking long for me. You know what I mean? Like I don't got time for that shit. So it was just like boom. And then I had a point to prove because I believed in this so much and so many people were there. And Sean, I love like I believe in Sean. Sean is just, if you know Sean, he's the most down to earth, honest, epically amazing human being. His wife Crystal is just as equally awesome, and I trust them with my life. So that was a big factor of this too, right? Is that I really trust him. And if he tells me something, Sean is very educated. Sean plays down, but let me tell you something. That is one educated man that knows a hell of a lot. He's been in this industry for a long time. His dad was a formulator and science. I mean, this family is just something special, right? So I believed it. And then I went for it. And when I started to do it, it was nuts to me. Like the little things that I see when you're so in tune, if like your pinky finger's off. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're like, I got to my body to a point from working out so much and being healthy and all of that like you get to a point where it's like, right away if like a toe's off. And you learn to identify, right? So all these little like elbow things that I had and my knee things that I had, and I would wake up still at 4:00 like I do today, but it took me 20 minutes with cold water on my face to get going. I still had that fogginess, right? That like lift that had to come up. I was motivated, I was ready to go, but I didn't wake up like I wake up, now. And then as time has gone on and I've learned more and I've researched more and I've dug through the science, and more importantly, I used myself as a human guinea pig like I always do, right? I've learned the benefit and the understanding that I think we've been lied to for the last 60 years. And where I used to think that I needed carbs, I now realize there's nothing essential about them besides certain ones that I strategically use in certain places. But that's kind of like how it came in. And everything going forward, like my recovery from my workouts is like non-existent. And I'm talking like I can brutally abuse myself, go run 30 miles on a training run and literally be okay to do a workout the next day. That's nuts, right? I'm 41 years old. People think that as you get my age, it's supposed to be going backwards. I feel like I'm like reversing in age. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm 40, like I'm going downhill. Like hell no. Like I just showed up. You know what I mean? Like mental clarity, crazy for me. Especially as an athlete. Recovery, I mean, dude, if you are an athlete and you don't realize the value of recovery, forget about it. But really the big thing is, here's the big thing. What we've learned is that 90% of our body is designed to function off of fat. That's the body's, if the body could actually choose. Now, mind you, the body will always choose glucose first because it's easier for the body to use that as energy. But see, glucose is like kindling wood. It's a very short burst of energy it just goes out. Fat is like the logs that you put on the fire. So the body the body can sustain, right? I already proved to myself the body can do more than I ever thought imaginable doing all these crazy races that I've done, right? The mindset was there and all that part was there. But when I started to kind of feel things and realize that I woke up with like, whoa, like I just woke up and I was like in the game, like I could start writing and start working and start game planning. That was crazy to me. And then the recovery and then the energy. It took me about 3 days because switching over from your body has two ways to use energy, right? Glucose or fat. That's the only two options. So if you're used to, which is like 90% of America, if you're used to fueling your body from carbohydrates and then you switch over to fat adapted, where your body's now utilizing fat as its main source of energy. That's key, main source of energy. Okay, it's gonna be a transition. But the more in shape you are, if you have an athlete that comes in, the switch over will actually be a not so bad of a transition. You'll have some days that really suck, And you'll have days that you drag ass. And I sat on that bike and I was miserable and my legs burned. And I was like, holy shit, this is nuts, right? But once it kicks in, you're like, whoa, like rocket fuel, like rocket fuel. And the main reason is this. I learned that, like I said already, the physical appearance of your body is the byproduct of what we're going for. What I want is cellular health. And when we eat glucose, sugars, and carbs, our blood sugar rises, which means our insulin gets released, which means cortisol, and there's nothing good in any of that combination. That attacks, that causes inflammation, that causes free radicals. These are bad, bad things. And if you constantly keep doing that over and over and over again, the body's not going to work the way it's supposed to. And what I've learned is when we eat protein, that only moderately happens. We don't get this big spike. It's just a little spike, but it's very controlled. And when we eat fat, it barely is a blip. Barely is a blip. You can eat all the fat in the world you want, and you'll barely raise your blood sugar. It keeps you satiated, and it's your body's now main fuel source. And what I learned, Rod, I literally just transitioned my body from one ultra to the other. I went from carb adapted to carb loading, right? Where I would eat a big bowl of pasta literally the night before my race to load up the glucose store, the glycogen stores, to the night before my death race. I ate a ribeye with 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 avocados with some bacon and cheddar cheese. And that was my pre-race game. And thankfully, I've switched my body to fat adapted for that one because I got super nauseous and couldn't eat. And I really think it was because of that. The utilization of training my body to get to that point was really kind of what helped.
Yeah. But Jesse, that I just sat back and soaked that in. That was a great answer. Great story. I hope you feel accepted by this community, because you are a big reason for many of us keeping going every day, moving forward, and knowing that we can do hard things and doing those things that you like to talk about. We're at 6 o'clock. You've been a terrific guest, I have to say. Maybe we'll have you back. But I did want not to waste the opportunity. There's people, Jesse, who this is the first call they might have seen you. Maybe it's the second call they've seen you.
Yeah.
They started 2 days ago. They're going, tomorrow is their first cleanse day. What will you tell those people in 30 seconds to get them up excited tomorrow to face that cleanse day and move into days 3, 4, 5, and on through 11?
It's 11 days. You're so worth 11 days. I mean, you got to really let that sink in, that you are so worth 11 days. You can do anything that you set your mind to. There's nothing that's stopping you besides you. So the only person that needs to get out of your freaking way to have success is yourself. So have a self check with yourself. If you've punished yourself for the last 14 years, you might have to suck it up, buttercup, and not bitch and moan and cry and complain, but you got to just suck it up and you got to deal with your choices. But be respectful of yourself and reward yourself because you raised your hand and you're here. But nobody says that this is going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It's not necessarily going to be fun, but you do it because you can. You do it because you have a choice, and you do it because you're freaking worth it. That's why you do it, and that's why you keep going.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn this back over to host Jesse to wrap us up. But I was honored to be part of this tonight. Thank you very much. And I'll let you bring it on home.
Yeah, man. Listen, I appreciate you. I want to thank you again. That was fun. You dug up a lot of stuff. I got a lot of work to do. I want to steal your knowledge for sure. I already told you that. I need way more conversations with you because I'm ready. Just like I challenge everybody to step up and bring it to that next level. I want to keep doing that. My goal every day is just to be a better human being tomorrow than I was today. And I think that's something that's really important that people can carry with them too. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. You are a special member of the Shudder community. You show up every day. You literally contribute some of the most valuable knowledge on a consistent basis. And I appreciate you. Sean appreciates you. Everybody appreciates you. So thank you too. So Guys, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for listening. We got a lot more that we can obviously dive in and talk to. If this was your first time, I appreciate your time. We don't take it lightly. Time is our most precious commodity. Every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., we have another special call. We dive in deep. We expose the truths. We get down to it, and we shred, whatever it is that we got to get rid of and shred and tell epically amazing stories. Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have a Shred Your Testimonial call where we have crazy transformation stories from real life people. It is moving. It is touching. It leaves you with chills. It leaves you with goosebumps. It leaves you crying sometimes. I invite you to join us there. You can go to www.ershred.com and find the link for that. If you're not part of our community, join our community for free, www.ershredders.com. And then on Thursday night, Rod, we have our opportunity call with one of our ambassadors, Mr. Bob Sivright, who's just an amazing genius in that aspect of things. And for those people that, are looking for even more out of the ER Shred, because that's right, baby, we got more than just what the surface brings, right? This is so much deeper. We got that for those people too. So guys, thanks again for your time. We appreciate you. Rob, thank you again, and we will talk to you guys soon.